What do you call a bear with no teeth?
I don't know.
A gummy bear.
Oh my goodness. I see we're like that.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from Chef vs. Baker. This week we are actually talking really briefly. Very briefly.
Fun tidbits.
About Christmas foods, right?
Christmas music foods.
Christmas music foods. Yes, let's talk about it. Hello, Sharon.
Hey, Winter.
How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah? Good.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I ate some terrible prime rib today.
You did?
I did.
How the heck did you get a prime rib on today of all days?
I know. It was an employee Christmas party.
Oh.
And it was well done.
Why would you do that to prime rib, people?
I think it was part of the, mass-produced chafing dishes were involved.
That's probably what happened, actually. It may have actually been, rare.
It was gray.
Originally. It probably was rare originally and then cooked over time. You should have elbowed your way to the very front. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I did.
Chafing dishes take they had to make it a long time ago. Come on.
I know. That's the thing. I ate this at 11:30.
Oh.
I don't know what was wrong, but I only ate part of it.
Yeah, prime rib, that's well done.
Yeah, chewy.
It's a shame.
Had a lot of chew to it.
It's a waste.
That was my day.
It's a crying shame. A crying shame.
How are you?
Oh, I'm not so good. We'll just leave it at that. Not doing so well, but that's okay. It is what it is. Anyway, the thing that does make me happy though is Christmas music. That helps turn around things.
That'll turn your frown upside down.
It will. And I've been listening to a fair amount of it just because it's almost Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So we decided, I suggested, I thought this was a good idea because I think I'm smart that way. But I said, there was a song that Lucy was singing. It was We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And they mentioned something about figgy pudding. And I'm like, I don't think I know what figgy pudding is, honestly. And so that got me to thinking there about all the food. I was like, I think there's a lot of references to food in Christmas songs.
Yeah.
So we should talk about them because I don't know what some of those are.
We got to sing about our Christmas treats.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're once a year treats.
Yeah. So we are going to talk a little bit about them. And this is going to be a quickie. There's going to be 2 quickies this week and next week because people, you're busy. I know you are. You're shopping madly. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're Amazon shopping it and just letting other people go crazy.
But maybe you're baking madly and hosting madly.
So you can listen to this little 10-minute podcast episode about some stuff in songs.
Excellent.
And now for the main course.
Okay, Sharon, let's hear it.
Okay. Sugar plums.
Oh, from
the Nutcracker.
Yes,
The dance of the sugar plum fairies.
Now, Sharon, I just want to tell you that I watched the Nutcracker movie recently.
Oh, I didn't know there was a movie. Okay.
There is the Nutcracker and the 4 realms or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to just say that Keira Knightley is really super annoying in that movie.
What?
I just went on the record saying that.
So the Nutcracker and the 4 realms sounds like anime to me.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's CGI.
Oh, all right.
Okay, that's enough of that. Okay. Sugar plum fairy. Sugar plums. What are sugar plums, Sharon?
So Tchaikovsky composed the Nutcracker in 1892. Also, visions of sugar plums dance in your head.
Oh, from the Night Before Christmas poem?
Yes, which was originally called something else, A Visit from St. Nicholas.
That's right.
And that was written by Clement C. Moore. And that was written in 1823.
When was the Nutcracker ballet written?
1892.
Huh.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
So right before the turn of the century.
Yeah.
So it's a little more recent, maybe.
I know. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, I was surprised too. But sugar plum are actually sugar plums the word sugar plum came into general usage in the 17th century. And then in the 18th century, it became British slang for a bribe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that fun? But sugar plums aren't actually plums of sugar. They're just spherical or oval shaped candies.
What?
That's what a sugar plum is.
So my root beer barrels?
Yes, your root beer barrels or your
butterscotch.
Starlight mints. Yeah, your butterscotch discs. Those could be sugar plums. However, if you search sugar plums and maybe say Pinterest, you're going to get all of these like actual plum candies and like pretty jewel coated pieces of fruit. That's not what a sugar plum is.
That's really what I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's just roundish candies.
Yep.
Ovular candies, Lee. I just had to say that for Lee.
Yep. Plum in the name of this confection does not mean plum in the sense of the fruit. It just refers to the small size and spherical or oval shape. Back in the day, so historically, sugar plums didn't contain any fruit. They were hardened sugar balls. Sometimes they were kind of pressed into like discs or ovals. Sometimes they surrounded a seed, nut, or a spice. And when they first came, the term sugar plum first came into usage in 17th century. And at that time, these candies were made through a labor-intensive process called panning. And it wasn't until the 1860s that manufacturers were actually able to mechanize that process using steam and heat and rotating pans. Because before then, it was considered a luxury because it was this labor-intensive process.
Right. As a lot of candy making does involve, because somebody's always tending to it. And
so it was more of a luxury item, but towards the end of the 1800s, it was more available for mass consumption.
Right. Okay.
So kind of cool.
So you're telling me my Boston baked beans could be a sugar plum?
Yes.
Right? Because it's candy coated nut inside.
Is it a nut or a bean? I can't ever get past I've eaten the outside of it, but I'm too afraid to bite into those things.
I think it's just a peanut.
Oh, okay. I always feel like I'm going to break a tooth.
You might. There's definitely that.
Sugar plums haven't always meant good luck. So in modern times, they have been bad luck.
Why? What? Why?
Because in the children's board game Candyland, there was a character named Plumpy, and he was a gingerbread troll who wore a sugar plum around his neck. And if you got the Plumpy card, that meant that you had to go back, like all the way up to the start.
Yeah, I don't remember Plumpy.
So that could often lead to prolonging the game, which is why Candyland never ends.
It doesn't.
But the Plumpy character was replaced in 2002 by Mama Ginger Tree.
Yeah, I don't
Fun
remember
fact.
Mother Ginger is part of the Nutcracker. Is that right? That was part of the show. Sorry, I'm getting things mixed up. Anyway. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So there's your sugar plum.
That's all it is. Okay, everybody.
It's candy.
I'm going to start calling all those little hard candies sugar plums now. I'm
That's
going to
right.
go old
Get
school.
some sugar plums in your stocking.
I'm going old school, yo. Okay. Candy cane, Sharon. I know you're like lame.
Candy canes aren't lame. I love the candy cane.
I know. I love the candy canes as well, but it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas talks about with candy canes and silver lanes aglow. That glow.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So candy canes, and I had read something, I was just reading something, and I was like, oh, this is a really interesting history of the candy cane. Let me tell it to you. One of the stories is that what happened was that there was a church in Germany. The choir master of the Cologne Cathedral in Cologne, Germany, this was in 1670. The children in the church during, they do a little living creche type of a situation during Christmas Eve.
The nativity play.
Exactly. He needed to keep them quiet, right?
Yeah.
And so he asked a candy maker in the town to make some sugar sticks for them to keep them quiet, basically during the worship service. And he asked the candy maker to kind of have a little crook, so it looks like a shepherd's crook who is visiting the infant Jesus.
Oh, yes.
And It goes on to say that in order to try and teach further, put a lesson with the candy,
to the candy cane. Okay.
They always talk about how the white symbolizes Jesus and his purity, and the red symbolizes the blood that he spilled for us. And you've heard that. You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this story, this entire story of this Cologne, Germany chorister who was trying to keep the children quiet is not really true.
What do you mean not really true?
There's no evidence of it. It's just a kind of a legend.
Oh, it wasn't made up so to keep kids quiet at church.
Well, I mean, candy keeps me quiet. Candy keeps Lucy quiet at church when we go to church. So that's a story. I really like that story. I'll be completely honest, but there's no evidence of it.
Dang it.
Yeah. So, I can believe it, but once again, I don't really know if it's right or not. So, the first time that kind of Christmas candy cane showed up in America can be traced to one German immigrant, another German on the scene. His name was August Imgard, and he actually created the first Christmas tree in Ohio. Like, he introduced the Christmas tree in Ohio in 1847, and there is an association, the National Confectioners Association, that wrote an article about his Christmas tree and noted that Imgard decorated a small blue spruce with paper ornaments and candy canes. So that's the first time it's referenced. However, there's something to contradict that as well, because Imgard's family kind of wrote about, kind of kept a little journal of what had happened, and they actually talked about how they actually decorated the tree, and there is no mention of any said candy canes or sticks of hard sugar candy. They talk, actually, it sounds like to me, cookies, like gingerbread cookies on the tree, and long chains of paper and stuff like that. So they're very, I'll read it. It says, ornaments were made of paper festooned in long chains by younger members of the pioneer community. Kuchen, baked according to a recipe sent from Bavaria by Imgard's mother, hung upon the tree and served both as ornaments and tidbits. The cookies were colored with brown sugar, and this family spent weeks baking them in quantities for the guests. Gilded nuts were other ornaments, and inside the gilded shells were warm messages of greeting. So there's nothing that describes candy canes either. So yeah, there's some contradictory information there, but this National Confectioners Association is kind of saying this is when it came onto the scene. Now, just on a side note, I have talked to some folks at the National Confectioners Association, right at Blogger Food a few years ago, and they were there to represent, like, hey, candy, it's a thing, like,
and buy our candy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, they represent all candy, like chocolates, like any types of confectionery items. That was not a really correct word, I don't think. Sorry about that. But they weren't representing anybody in particular. And it was interesting because right when I was talking to them, it was right around Halloween. And I was like, so what's your take on this Halloween situation? They're like, actually, we want people to have candy, obviously, but we have a lot of guidance on how to eat it, eat it moderately and to
interesting.
It was very good. Actually, I was really impressed with them. So anyway,
eat candy responsibly.
Yeah. Basically. Now, since we don't know exactly when the candy cane showed up, I do want to talk a little bit about how the candy cane crook, that little bend in it, was perfected, because at the time there were a couple of gentlemen that created some patents to make candy canes in the early 1920s. In 1919 specifically, Robert McCormick, he began making candy canes for local children, and by the middle of the century, his company, which is I think commonly known as Bob's Candies, is one of the leading candy cane producers because of the fact that his brother-in-law, Gregory Harding Keller, he was a seminary student in Rome, and he spent a lot of his summers there working in the candy factory back home. So like he'd go to Rome to be a seminary student, and then when he came home, he would work in the candy factory. in 1957, Keller, as an ordained Roman Catholic priest, he patented his invention, the Keller machine, because it automated the process of twisting the soft candy into that spiral striping to make it like really consistent all the way through. And it helped with not breaking also because of they were chucking about 22% of the candy canes they were making and during that bending process. And once Keller's machine got implemented, that's when things started to pick up and those candy canes would come out perfectly uniform, no break in the crook, right? Because that usually is what happens. So, but yeah, like, gotta love it. Robert McCormick didn't necessarily, I don't think he was the one that held the patent, was owned by the Bundt brothers, but he was the one that made it famous, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he ran with it. He was riding the candy cane train, I guess.
Nice.
And making it what it was. So, yeah. So that's what candy canes, we don't know where it came from.
They just happened.
It just happened. Somebody invented it and didn't get credit for it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, guys. Anyway, I love candy canes.
And
hot chocolate.
I love the candy cane green tea from Trader Joe's.
Oh, yeah. That's your fave.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it several
Celestial
times.
Seasonings also has one that's comparable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we hope you have a really nice rest of your week.
Eat a candy cane or a sugar plum.
I'm going to go get a root beer barrel. So not Christmassy at all, is it?
Sure it is. It's candy. Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and Spotify.
Thanks, you guys. Join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery as we talk about more Christmas song foods.
Part 2.
Yes.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.